Hi, I'm Zara. I'm the founder of Faithless Hijabi, and a lot of you have recently been asking me why I've left the so-called religion of peace. And these are my reasons for why I left. For the longest time, I questioned the existence of God. I remember being 10 and 11, and I went up to my parents asking who created God and why he didn't have any parents or siblings. And I was told because he is all-knowing and self-created, and there was nothing before him and there's nothing after him. It's just a being. That didn't answer my questions, and I kept asking around to many of my Islamic school teachers. In the end, I realized nobody really had the answer to it, so I brushed it off. As I grew older, I started questioning the hijab. I wore the hijab at the age of 8, and I started questioning why women had to wear hijab and why they couldn't take it off. So I read up on the history of hijab, which led me to the history of Muhammad. And a lot of times, whenever I read about why women have to wear hijab, it had to do a lot with men not being able to control themselves. But then, why were women subjugated to it? And how was hijab invented? And that then brought out the story of sex slavery. A lot of people, I didn't even know about slavery at the time. And there's so many things about Islam that I wasn't taught, like the bad parts about Islam that I wasn't taught. All I knew was about the wars where Muslims were oppressed and they had to fight for their rights. But nobody actually told me who started the wars. Nobody told me that Islam was spread through wars and that Muhammad had given people conditions on either accepting Islam, paying tax, or getting killed. And that's how most of the wars went in. And then the part of taking women as slaves from wars and differentiating slave women from free women by the use of hijab was very suffocating to me, knowing that I am wearing something that other women were not allowed to wear because they were taken as slaves. So basically, it was a form of patriarchy and oppression, and that's how I see hijab. That pushed me to question more about Muhammad's life, and I read up extensively on his wives. I knew he had a wife called Aisha that the Shias really did not like because she went in a war against Ali, who is the grandson of the Prophet. Little did I know that Aisha was 6 years old when she was married to the Prophet, and that the marriage was consummated when she was 9. And to me, that is not consent. No 9-year-old would ever consent to marriage. However, there have been alternate hadiths saying that she was 18. But so many of these have contradicted themselves, saying that Aisha brought her toys to her husband's house, Muhammad's house. And what I didn't understand is, if Muhammad had so many wives, why did he need to marry Aisha? She was only 6. Why a child? I know he had married widows before and divorcees to show people that you can marry them. But why did he need to marry Aisha? And why did he need sex slaves out of all of them? Were those wives not enough? There were so many topics about slavery that made me feel that women were not taken as equal as men. Why are men allowed to marry 4 wives and women not allowed to marry 4 men? Where was the equality in inheritance? Where was the equality in testimony? Why are women considered to be half of man's worth of testimony? And all of that made me feel like either I should have been born a man, or that being a woman in Islam is suffocating because, 1, you're not treated as equal. 2, you have all this responsibility with wearing hijab when all it is a form of oppression. And I didn't understand why people thought it was liberating. Which then pushed me away to remove my hijab and slowly start digging into the different sects of Islam, the Sunni and the Shia sect. I was brought up as a Shia, and my family or everybody in my community did not agree to getting married to Sunnis. There were very less interracial or intersect marriages. And I was seeing somebody who was a Sunni, and I was trying to learn from him on what the differences were. What I realized is that while they all believed in the God and the Prophet, they had very different ideas about Islam, and the way they practiced it were also very different. One, the Shia being very violent at the time, when violent commemorating death of the grandson of the Prophet, Hussein, and they would beat their chests up and cry and weep, and I never understood it. I had to force myself to cry. And I stopped beating my chest. I stopped going to the mosque when I moved to Australia. I took off my headscarf, and I wanted to learn more about religion itself. I already knew as anti-women, but maybe I was just trying to not understand the other side of it. And there were so many mental gymnastics I was playing to validate my ideas. But then what I also realized is that Islam is also quite against gay people. I had never met a lot of gay people. I didn't even know homosexuality existed until I left Tanzania and grew out of my bubble and met gay people. And I could never stand that these are people who are cursed in religion, and there are non-believers who are sent to hell. And I read up more on tolerance, and I put up a post about accepting gay people, but all I received was backlash from other Muslims, and Muslims asking me to renounce my religion because I supported gay people. And just seeing the vile comments pushed me further away from religion, because they were right. There is no tolerance in Islam. There is no accepting of gay people. There is no accepting of non-believers unless they convert. Where Quran has verses that condemn non-believers to hell. And the Sharia law has a punishment of throwing gay people off the roof. Not forgetting that women who are raped in Islam and are victims are considered to be criminals as well, because how dare she be with the male alone? And they are the ones who are punished most in Islam versus the people who preyed on the women. And this are some of the reasons what pushed me away from Islam. The anti-women and the anti-gay was the biggest part. Once I realized Islam wasn't for me, I started talking to other ex-Muslims. It was a world that I didn't even know existed. I started learning more about them. I started reading books. I started reading The Atheist Muslim. I started reading Richard Dawkins' books. I even started reading more of the Quran to understand why there were ex-Muslims. I started finding verses that basically would talk about peace and tolerance, but then there were so many verses that would contradict them. And then I went on, because there were so many hadiths that I wasn't exposed to as a Shia, I went on reading all about the Sunni hadiths. And all of them just validated my ideas on what I thought about Islam. A big part of me already knew that my values would never coincide with Islamic values. And it took a few friends to show that to me, or to snap me back and let me know that, hey, Zara, you're not actually a Muslim, are you? And I kept countering it, and I'm like, no, I believe in God, and I believe in Muhammed doing the right thing. And they had some pretty interesting questions, which were, then why are non-believers condemned to hell? Or why did Muhammad marry Aisha? Why is there multiple gods? Why are Christians and Jews wrong? Why are you lucky to be born in the religion of Islam? Why are other people following different religions? Why are people falling out of religion? And all these questions made me think more about what I wanted out of life and what morality was. Because if it's moral to be with a 6-year-old, I don't accept that. And if it's moral to kill people who are gay for the choices they don't have, being gay is not a choice. And that has been proven by scientific researchers. So basically, I was in a position where there was so much hate filled in Islam, and I couldn't be a part of it. And that's when I decided to renounce Islam and learn more about it anyway, so that when I do speak up about it, I had some evidence and backing, which I'll probably be linking to on this video. But for the biggest part, it was very much to do with the anti-women and the anti-gay support that the anti-women and the anti-gay support that Islam had given to Muslims. I think religion at large makes you do bad things and justifies it, while you can do so much good outside religion, and it's not limited to religion. This is a very short video on why I left. Obviously, the podcast that I have had with secular jihadists and Atheist Republic have it in more depth, so go check that out. I'll link that to it. Feel free to post up any questions or follow me on Twitter. Do check out Faithless Hijabi. It's a platform where ex-Muslims share their story and educate other people on their experiences, what they thought about Islam, and very similar to what I have recorded in this video, the doubts we have before we left religion. But this is my short video. Let me know if there are any other topics that you'd like me to cover. We'll possibly be having more in the next couple of weeks.